Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we explore the captivating currents of human history and thought. There's an ancient, undeniable pull towards the unknown, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. It's deep in us, I think.
From the earliest civilizations, humanity has sought to uncover hidden truths, sometimes just for pure curiosity, but often it's been driven by something deeper.
Yeah, the hope for knowledge, maybe wealth, a better life, or even even a touch of the miraculous.
Exactly. And today we're diving into a movement that seems to capture all of that. Hermeticism.
Hermeticism. It's fascinating stuff.
This wasn't just a philosophy, it was a profound mystical and religious tradition with really deep roots in ancient writings.
Right, and it promised so much insights into metaphysics, the stars, that legendary philosopher's stone.
And even practices that, well, early cultures definitely saw as magic. It was this multifaceted system that really truly captivated some of history's greatest minds.
It really did. So our mission today, I suppose, is to unpack where Hermeticism actually came from, what it taught at its core, and how its profound influence has echoed through history.
Right. We'll need to look at that enigmatic figure, Hermes Trismegistus.
The supposed author, yeah. And of course, that pivotal, really controversial text, the Emerald Tablet.
So think of this deep dive as your shortcut, maybe, into a world of thought that, okay, it might seem obscure today.
But it fundamentally shaped so much our understanding of science, spirituality, the cosmos itself. It's a big one.
Okay, let's unpack this mystery then, starting with the man, or maybe more accurately, the legend himself, Hermes Trismegistus.
Right. He's the figure all those ancient Hermetic writings are attributed to.
But what's fascinating, or maybe frustrating, is that his true identity is, well, it's completely unknown, lost to time.
Totally. But his name, Trismegistus, that gives us a massive clue, doesn't it?
It does. Thrice great.
Mhm.
What does that typically signify?
Well, thrice great. It's a really powerful title. Often it's taken to mean his mastery over three realms, maybe philosophy, alchemy, and theology.
Or wisdom, astrology, and magic.
Exactly. Or maybe even the physical, mental, and spiritual worlds. The key thing is how Hermes Trismegistus was revered across just countless generations and really diverse religions.
He kept reappearing, connecting different cultures through this shared reverence for some kind of hidden, profound knowledge.
Precisely. And that reverence, it showed up in really fascinating ways, especially in how his identity kind of morphed and merged across different traditions.
Like in Islamic contexts, he was often linked to the prophet Idris.
Yes, seen as a messenger of God, the originator of hidden wisdom. But then some Jewish traditions connected him to the prophet Moses.
Wow. And even within other Muslim accounts, he was sometimes seen as the companion of Moses mentioned in the Quran and Surat al-Kahf.
Or Idris himself, who ascended to heaven. He was this figure who just transcended single religious or cultural boxes. Really remarkable.
So, with such a revered but kind of elusive figure, the question becomes, how did his teachings even come to light? The legends around the discovery of his tomb and the Emerald Tablet sound pretty wild.
They are, and they're completely uncertain and often conflicting. Some accounts say Sarah, Abraham's wife, found his tomb.
To Sarah.
Others say Alexander the Great, during his campaigns in Egypt.
That sounds a bit more plausible, maybe?
And yet another version attributes it to Apollonius of Tyana, or Belinus the Greek, as he's known in Arabic sources.
So we just don't know for sure. These conflicting stories just add to the mystique, really.
It's almost like the truth itself was meant to be a bit of a shapeshifter, just like Hermes.
Right. But despite all this mystery about the person, Hermes Trismegistus was considered nothing less than the father of religions, wisdom, astrology, and magic. That's a huge claim.
It is, but what's striking is this wasn't just some fringe belief held by a few mystics.
No.
No, major thinkers. People like Jabir ibn Hayyan in the Islamic world, often called the father of chemistry. Right up to pioneers of modern science, like Isaac Newton. They were undeniably influenced by Hermetic teachings, or at least engaged with them.
Even Newton. That's surprising.
Yes, and specific Islamic circles, like the Ismaili and the Brethren of Purity, the Ikhwan al-Safa, they also explored Hermeticism deeply. It shows its profound impact across centuries and really diverse intellectual traditions.
That influence is undeniable.
Mm.
And maybe nowhere is that influence more concentrated, more enigmatic than in what many consider the heart of Hermeticism.
The legendary Emerald Tablet.
The Emerald Tablet. It's one of those mystical objects, isn't it?
Mm.
Instantly captures the imagination. Supposedly holds the ultimate wisdom of the Hermetic path.
That's the legend.
But you use the word legendary, which makes me think there's a catch.
There is a pretty big catch. The original tablet itself, believed to be lost. Gone.
Ah, so what do we actually have?
What we have are textual reproductions. The most famous ones are based on an Arabic translation.
Okay, an Arabic translation. From where?
It comes from a text called Kitab Sir al-Azrar al-Khalaiq wa Sanat al-Tabiya, roughly, the book of the secrets of creation and the art of nature attributed to this Belinus al-Yunani.
Belinus. Apollonius again.
Likely, yes. And that Arabic text was itself supposedly translated from Syriac, or maybe even Phoenician.
So we're dealing with layers upon layers of translation and transmission for a text that's already meant to be profoundly enigmatic.
Exactly. It complicates things considerably.
Okay, so the original tablet is lost, but these ancient translations, they give us a window, right, into its core message. What are some of those key phrases that have captivated so many people?
Sure. The Arabic version gives us a good sense. It starts with this really strong declaration, true without doubt, certain, and most true.
Okay, very confident.
Then it lays out that fundamental principle of cosmic connection. What is below is like that which is above, and what is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of one thing.
The famous, as above, so below.
That's the one. It describes a kind of cosmic parentage. The sun is its father, the moon its mother, the wind hath carried it in its belly, the earth is its nurse.
Very poetic. Almost alchemical.
Very much so. And it hails its power, the father of all talismans, the treasure of wonders, and perfect in all powers.
Father of talismans.
Yeah, we'll come back to that phrase. It goes on, thus was the world created. From this are and come admirable adaptations whereof the means are here. And then it concludes, hence I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world.
Even just hearing those lines, even in translation, they resonate with such power, but also deep mystery. It's clearly not a straightforward how-to guide.
Not at all. And that's maybe the true genius, or perhaps the enduring power of the Emerald Tablet. It lies right there in its deliberate ambiguity.
So it's less instruction, more cosmic Rorschach test.
That's a great way to put it. It invites centuries of personal interpretation. This very open-endedness is precisely why it resonated with alchemists, mystics, early scientists. Everyone seemed to find their own profound truth hidden in its lines.
And I guess that ambiguity only gets magnified when you factor in the translation challenges you mentioned. Moving a text like that across languages must dramatically alter things.
Oh, absolutely. The rhetorical balance, the power of specific words, the intended meanings, they can shift significantly.
You mentioned father of talismans?
Yes, Abu al-Talasim in Arabic. Now, in Arabic, that phrase has strong links to sorcery, maybe even black magic.
Okay, quite negative connotation.
Right, but when translated into some European languages, talisman might just mean an amulet, something for good luck, losing that darker edge.
I see.
And this is critical. Remember Jabir ibn Hayyan, the chemist? In his translation or commentary, he actually omitted that specific line, Abu al-Talasim.
He left it out. Why?
Likely due to concerns about how it would be perceived within Islamic perspectives, associating wisdom with sorcery. But other translations, like one attributed to Yahya ibn al-Bitrik, did include it.
And that version?
That version went on to heavily influence medieval Europe. So you see how a translator's choice, maybe based on cultural or religious sensitivity, could significantly shape the understanding and even the entire trajectory of a tradition in another part of the world.
That's fascinating. A single line, omitted or included, changes everything. But this raises a curious point you touched on earlier. Despite Hermeticism having older roots, the Emerald Tablet itself isn't mentioned in any pre-Islamic works before the 9th century AD.
Yeah.
That seems like a huge gap for such a supposedly foundational text.
It is a significant absence, and it's something historians definitely puzzle over. It strongly suggests that while Hermetic ideas were certainly circulating much earlier, the Emerald Tablet as we know it in this specific textual form likely emerged, or at least became prominent, much later. Perhaps it was formalized during the Islamic Golden Age before it then spread westward.
Okay, so the text might be later than the core ideas. It's fascinating how these concepts traveled and changed, but this brings up a vital point. If the Emerald Tablet text came later, where was the original spark for Hermeticism? Where did this whole movement really start to take shape?
Good question. If we look at the historical records, the oldest accounts we have of Hermeticism point back to Hellenistic Egypt.
Hellenistic Egypt, so after Alexander the Great. around the 4th century BC.
Exactly. That was a really vibrant period, a sort of crucible of cultural integration where Greek and Egyptian traditions met, mingled, and blended in really interesting ways.
A real melting pot of ideas. And our sources suggest this involved a symbolic merging of two pretty powerful deities, right? The Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth.
Precisely. This divine fusion is absolutely central to understanding the origins of the Hermes Trismegistus figure. On the Greek side, you have Hermes.
The messenger god.
Right, the swift messenger bridging the human and divine worlds. He was also the patron of merchants, travelers, even thieves, kind of representing crossing boundaries.
Then god of souls.
Yes, a psychopomp guiding the dead. The Romans knew him as Mercury. He was linked with rhetoric, trade, cunning, astronomy, music, even combat. A very multifaceted god.
Okay. And then on the Egyptian side, we have Thoth, often shown with the head of an ibis.
That's him. And Thoth is described as one of the most complex deities in the Egyptian pantheon.
God of?
God of the moon, medicine, science, magic, wisdom, and crucially, writing. He was considered the one who granted these essential forms of knowledge to humanity. He played a huge role in many core Egyptian myths.
So you look at Thoth's attributes: knowledge, wisdom, magic, writing.
And you compare them to Hermes Messenger, translator between worlds, associated with knowledge and skill.
The overlap seems pretty striking.
It really is, which made their fusion, their syncretism, almost inevitable, especially given the centuries of cultural exchange between Greeks and Egyptians in places like Alexandria.
So historians generally believe that Hermes Trismegistus, this thrice great figure, is essentially a human embodiment, maybe indirectly, of this powerful cross-cultural divine blend.
That's the prevailing view, yes. It shows how ancient cultures, rather than keeping their gods rigidly separate, could actively synthesize them to create this kind of universal figure of wisdom. It points to a deep human drive, maybe, to unify diverse spiritual truths.
It's a really remarkable cultural synthesis. But okay, let's move beyond the mysterious figure and the enigmatic text. What were the actual philosophical foundations of Hermeticism? What did these early texts teach underneath all the varied interpretations?
Well, at the absolute heart of it all was the concept of God as the singular creator of everything, the One.
The one, not necessarily anthropomorphic.
Generally not. More like a profound, overarching presence, the source. From this singular God, the universe unfolds, often described in a kind of hierarchical structure.
Like levels of reality.
Exactly. Moving down from God through various spheres or worlds, you might see terms like the intelligible world, then the material world, eventually down to humanity.
And humanity holds a special place in this order.
Yes, a very special place. This brings us to that idea of humanity as a microcosm.
Ah, yes, the microcosm. I've heard that term. What does it really mean in the Hermetic context?
It's absolutely central. Hermeticism teaches that we humans are a microcosm, a small-scale reflection of the greater universe, the macrocosm, or even of the divine itself.
So like the universe in miniature.
Pretty much. We possess a divine spark, a spiritual reality that elevates us above other creations. This idea that within each of us lies a reflection of the entire cosmos, it resonated far beyond just Hermeticism. It became a really foundational theme in many later philosophical and mystical traditions.
So if we're a microcosm, reflecting the divine or the cosmos, that implies a really deep connection to everything else, doesn't it? Like an interconnected web.
Precisely. And that leads directly to another profound Hermetic belief. The absolute interconnectedness of everything in the universe, sometimes called sympathy.
Sympathy, like resonance.
Exactly like resonance. It's fundamentally a monistic view, meaning it sees all of reality as ultimately a single, unified essence.
All's one.
All is divine unity, part of God, and God exists within all things. This creates a sense of continuous creation, an indestructible existence. Every atom, every star, every thought is linked, vibrating with the same divine energy. This isn't just poetry for them. It's a foundational understanding of how reality works.
Okay, if everything is this interconnected divine unity, it sounds almost like a grand spiritual blueprint. But what was the practical goal for someone following this path? What were they trying to achieve?
The ultimate aim was spiritual ascent. The journey involved purifying the soul from, well, impurities, attachments.
Attachments to the material world.
Yes, and detachment from the body, allowing the human spirit, that divine spark, to ascend and draw closer to God, to the One.
So a kind of asceticism, disciplining the self.
It involved a form of asceticism, yes, rigorous self-discipline, avoiding excessive indulgence. But, and this is important, it wasn't usually about completely rejecting the material world as inherently evil or worthless.
Ah, how so?
It was more about mastering it, understanding it as a reflection, however imperfect, of the divine, but crucially, not letting it enslave the spirit. You needed to understand the world to transcend it properly.
That makes sense. But speaking of material world, our sources mention something intriguing, these apparent contradictions within Hermetic texts. Sometimes the material world is described as beautiful, worthy of study.
A reflection of God's glorious creation.
Right. And other times it's depicted as a prison or a curse that the soul needs to escape. How do we reconcile those seemingly opposite views?
That's a great observation, and it points to a key insight from modern scholarship. The thinking now is that these aren't necessarily flat contradictions in the core philosophy.
Okay.
Instead, they're often interpreted as representing different stages of spiritual growth for the initiate. Think of it like levels in a spiritual education.
Ah, so different teachings for different stages of the journey.
Exactly. Early messages might offer one view, maybe emphasizing the beauty of creation to foster reverence and understanding. But as an initiate progresses, as they achieve higher states of consciousness, perhaps more advanced teachings guide them toward a different perspective.
Seeing the material world more as a temporary vessel, something to ultimately transcend.
Precisely. It's about perspective shifting as you grow spiritually.
Okay, so it's about progressing through different levels of understanding. And our sources mention two distinct forms of knowing that seem central to this progression.
Yes, this is crucial. There's a distinction made between, on the one hand, epistemology,
Which is?
which is basically external knowledge of the world. Knowledge gained through studying creation, observing how things are organized, understanding the natural laws. This is seen as crucial for comprehending God's work, God's artistry.
So, knowledge about the world.
Right. But then there's gnosis.
Gnosis, that sounds different.
It is. Gnosis is described as a direct, often ineffable experience of truth. It's not just intellectual, it's a spiritual insight, a direct knowing of God and one's own true divine nature.
So, knowledge by acquaintance almost. A direct experience.
Exactly. And gnosis is considered absolutely essential for achieving ultimate piety and true spiritual awakening in the Hermetic tradition. This dual path, embracing both rational inquiry and intuitive experiential revelation, was a real hallmark of Hermetic thought and deeply influenced later mystical traditions.
So both are important, epistemology and gnosis, but gnosis is the deeper, more transformative connection. What's the ultimate outcome then, the end goal of this whole spiritual journey?
The ultimate goal is that as the practitioner progresses, mastering both forms of knowledge and purifying the soul, they can actually transcend the limitations of the material world.
Transcend how?
It leads to what's often described as a spiritual rebirth. Not physical, of course, but a profound transformation of consciousness and awakening to one's true divine nature.
And through that rebirth.
They achieve a state of complete knowledge, gnosis, and an unparalleled closeness to or even union with God. It's about shedding the limitations of the earthly mundane self to fully realize and embody that divine spark within.
Wow, what a profound journey described there, from those mysterious origins in Egypt through the enigma of the Emerald Tablet to these really deep philosophical and spiritual goals.
It's quite a sweep of history and ideas.
This deep dive has really revealed the vast and enduring impact of Hermeticism. We've seen its influence pop up with early Islamic philosophers like Al-Kindi, scientists like Jabir ibn Hayyan.
Who we mentioned kept trying to integrate it carefully.
Right, and then that huge resurgence in 15th century Renaissance Europe, thanks to Marsilio Ficino translating the Hermetic corpus texts that had been preserved.
Absolutely. Ficino's translations were a bombshell in Renaissance Florence. Its tendrils really do reach far and wide. Hermeticism profoundly shaped the course of Western esotericism.
Influencing so many modern ideas about occult sciences, magic, astrology, alchemy.
Definitely. For centuries, it was viewed by many as this incredibly ancient foundational wisdom prisca theologia, the ancient theology, a source for teachings supposedly inherited by all the great prophets and philosophers. Its impact is still felt, maybe subtly, in how we think about hidden knowledge and the interconnectedness of the cosmos.
So let's leave our listeners with this final thought to ponder. Given that Hermeticism fundamentally posits the entire universe as a unified whole, where everything is intimately connected, this divine unity where God or the One exists within all things, how might adopting such a perspective, even just metaphorically, change the way you interact with the world around you, and maybe even how you approach your own pursuit of knowledge today?
It really asks us to look for the connections, doesn't it? The shared essence in everything we encounter. A different way of seeing.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel a little more well-informed and perhaps, like us, a lot more curious.